my wife we had just had our first child. My son is 25 years old now. So I come home one day, my wife's about ready to give birth, and I tell her, honey, I'm giving my notice at the law firm. I was at this big prestigious firm in Boston, and by all accounts, I was on a proper track to become a partner. And she looked at me horrified, like, you what? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to start my own practice. And she's always been very supportive, but she definitely had a look of fear on her face, But it worked out very, very well. Working for the big firm, I had a lawyer friend who later became my partner, always calling me, asking me questions. Hey, I have this case, but I don't know how to handle it. Hey, I have this case. And I was wondering, this guy's getting all this business. He doesn't know how to work it. So conversations led to him saying, why don't you come out? I don't know how to do this stuff, but I know how to get business. So we got together. He made the phone ring, and I went to court. And that's how it started.
Were you scared?
I was terrified.
Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hey everybody, it's Tom Foster in the world of marketing, and today I am super excited because I've got my buddy who flew in from Boston, Len Spada.
Nice to be here.
I know, and here we are in the studio. Usually we have to do these over Zoom, but
not today.
I know, not today.
Not today.
Very excited. We picked you up from the airport.
In a beautiful rig, I might add.
Oh, thank you very much. He's talking about the Gladiator. Got a little Jeep.
Had the roof open.
Yep.
Got a little sun.
Got a little sun coming in.
A little sun.
Flying in, National Airport. Beautiful day outside. But 15 minutes away, right?
It was. I didn't know you were this close. I'd actually never been to your new office, which is beautiful.
Thank you very much. And our podcast studio, and got all the lights and the cameras and everything is so cool in here, right?
This is the real deal.
I know. I'm excited too.
Yeah, it's the real deal.
Well, brother, I so appreciate you coming in, and I so appreciate you. And wow, what a journey.
Yeah. You've been with Foster now it's been at least 5 years.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
At least 5 years. And you guys have been great to me. So happy to be here. And things are going well business-wise, so we got some new ideas.
Thank you for that. And so tell me, Len, you do personal injury.
I do.
So tell me how you got started.
Well, I grew up in Boston, and I went to law school in Boston, went to Boston College, and I was a prosecutor. So I spent several years in the DA's office in Boston prosecuting crimes. And I got my trial experience there, and then like a lot of DAs, you can't afford, or at least I couldn't afford.
You were a badass prosecutor.
I think I was pretty good, and it was one of the best jobs I've ever had. It's just, unfortunately, it doesn't pay well. So my wife and I were just starting our life together, just got married.
How old were you?
I got married at 29.
So your early 30s?
Yeah, early 30s, and I would have liked to have stayed in the DA's office longer because it was exciting. You wake up every day and there's trials to be tried. There are important cases.
What kind of cases were you doing?
I was doing a lot of gang-related violent cases. So in Boston, when I was in the DA's, I graduated law school in 1991. Man, that sounds like such a long time ago.
Right.
But I graduated in 91, and the city had a gang problem. To a certain extent, we still do, but they've done a really good job tamping that out. But in the early 90s, there was a specialized unit, the Boston Police Department. It was called the Gang Unit. Not a very creative name, but it was called the Gang Unit. And I tried a lot of cases that came out of the Gang Unit's arrests. And so anything that was gang affiliated, whether it was drug dealing or it was shootings, or gun possessions, of violence of any type, I would be prosecuting those. And so I got to work closely with the Boston Police Department, which was super fun. You're a 29-year-old guy. You're doing ride-alongs with the police. You're going into, while they're executing search warrants, they're all in their gear, and you got your suit on from court. So it was like a real disconnect. But I grew up in the city, so I was from Boston. It was just a ton of fun. It was a perfect mix of excitement and intellectual stimulation.
Right.
It was kind of cool. Unfortunately, like I said, when I left, I was supervising other lawyers, and I think I was making $29,000. So
how long did you do that for?
I did it for about 4 years.
Okay.
And you just can't buy a home, you can't start raising a family, you keep paying off your school debt.
But that's a great experience.
It was a great experience. I had 100 jury trials.
Wow.
And you can't get 100 jury trials in private practice for 3 lifetimes.
Right.
But in the DA's office, it's one after another after another. So I got a lot of trial experience, which served me well. I then left. I went into private practice at a big firm. And I was on the other side. I was representing and being paid by insurance companies to defend personal injury cases. So, for example, if you got into an accident and you hired a lawyer and you sued a client, whether it be a business or an individual, and that person had insurance, they would hire me. The insurance company would hire me.
Yeah.
So my job was paying you as little as possible or paying you nothing if I could. And I did that for a few years, and that's how I got into personal injury work. I didn't really enjoy it because I really felt like I was on the wrong side of, it sounds corny, but I felt like I was on the wrong side of justice. I was being paid by big insurance companies, and it was good experience, but it was something I knew I didn't want to do forever. And I left, and I ended up founding my own law firm that did strictly personal injury.
How long did you do the defense firm stuff?
I did that for another 3 years.
Wow.
So it was enough to.
That's some really good experience on both fronts. It was a great experience.
I didn't, when I was doing it, I'd like to tell you I had this long-term game plan. I'm going to get my trial experience, and I'm going to learn it wasn't planned, but it ended up being a real perfect education for me. So then I went on in 1998, in August of 98, which is coming up on our 25th anniversary, we started a law firm, my partner and I, and we've been doing plaintiff side personal injury work ever since.
25th anniversary.
25 years. Yep.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And that is, but it's the combination of your experience is really what made you such a great, fantastic personal injury lawyer representing the people now.
Well, I think I do think it gave me an edge.
Right.
And not only was I experienced on the other side, but I hired people from the other side too. So I have a senior case manager that's been with me for 19 of those 25 years, who I hired away from an insurance company, who's exceptional at what she does. And so she and I, and then we've hired other people since, of course, but we really formed the backbone of, we've always sold ourselves as we know their secrets.
Right.
We know how to deal with the insurance company. Why? Because we were there. We worked for them. And that's not just a tagline. It's true. So I've always been able to, I think, represent our clients better than our competitors because, A, I knew how the insurance companies worked internally. I also, knew the players. I could pick up the phone and call people at insurance companies that I've used to work for or, against. And I certainly think I've garnered a lot of respect from the other side because of my experience. So, you fight every day on these personal injury cases, but at some point in time, an insurance company is making a decision to pay you or not to pay you. And if you have certain experience and you're a reasonable individual and they know you're competent and they know you'll go to court, they know you're not afraid to take a case to trial, the case has a value that is more than if there's another lawyer who has a reputation, they never go to court, they always settle cases. We do better for our clients.
Right.
And I feel strongly about that.
That's your edge.
That's my edge.
Yeah,
and,
I love it.
Yeah, and it's worked out well.
Len, who are some of your mentors along the way?
Well, one of them, I would say, is a partner at the firm I worked for, at the insurance defense firm. His name is Maynard Kirpalani. And Maynard is now a Superior Court judge in Massachusetts and a highly regarded judge in Massachusetts. But he was a partner that I worked for, and he was brilliant. And he taught me a bunch of things. And he's a shorter guy. He's short in stature. When you look at him, he was always a little bit disheveled, with unlike yourself, who's very stylish. He would always have like a shirt untucked, or his tie a little askew.
Did he do that on purpose? Or?
No, that wasn't something that was of interest to him. And so what he taught me was he would go to trial on cases, on big cases. We represented, we did a lot of defense work for medical device manufacturers, whether it be a heart catheter, or somebody would sue the company that made the medical device, and Maynard was the point person. And he'd go to trial, and I would watch this guy get up there, a little disheveled, talking to the jury in a quiet tone. And as a young lawyer, I thought you needed to behave in a different way.
Right.
And what he taught me was you need to just be yourself in court. You need to be who you really are. And you can be very effective with your own personality. You don't have to try to emulate somebody that you're not. And he was wildly successful. He would be talking to jurors, and I'd be thinking to myself, wow, look at them. They're wrapped in what he's saying. He just had a way about him that was authentic. And I never saw the guy lose. And so he taught me so much. And he was also very generous with his time with me. He was a great mentor. And I've tried to honor that and do the same with my time with the younger people, because he was so kind and generous to me with his time. He made me a much better lawyer. So I'm forever grateful to Maynard for that. So I would say he would be my biggest mentor in my career.
What made you want to start your own firm?
That's a great question. You think back as you get older and say, was I the entrepreneurial type? And you don't really think about it. It's not something I think a lot of young people sit around and say, am I the... Well, nowadays, entrepreneurship is a much more discussed topic. Right. So there are younger people, I think, who are sitting there thinking that. Not in my generation and not when I was growing up. I never thought of that. However, when I think back of the things that I did in my life, I'm like, maybe I did have an entrepreneurial spirit that I didn't even know about. I was a young kid. I had multiple paper routes. When I was in college, I started a delivery service for a Chinese restaurant in my neighborhood. Nobody was, at that time, no one delivered Chinese food. Only got delivery of pizza. Now you can get everything delivered. But back then, I approached the Chinese restaurant and said, listen, they're delivering pizza. Why don't I deliver food? And the owner of the restaurant thought I was nuts, but he said, as long as I don't have to pay you, you can just work off tips, give it a shot. It was very successful. And as a 20-year-old young guy, I made a lot of money doing that. So now that I look back, I guess I had that entrepreneurial spirit in me. And when I was at the law firm working for the big firm, I had a lawyer friend who later became my partner, always calling me, asking me questions. Hey, I have this case, but I don't know how to handle it. Hey, I have this case. And I was wondering, this guy's getting all this business, and he doesn't know how to work it. So conversations led to him saying, why don't you come out? I don't know how to do this stuff, but I know how to get business. So we got together. He made the phone ring, and I went to court. And that's how it started.
Were you scared?
I was terrified. My wife we had just had our first child. My son is 25 years old now. So I come home one day, my wife's about ready to give birth. And I tell her, honey, I'm giving my notice at the law firm. I was at this big prestigious firm in Boston. And by all accounts, I was on a proper track to become a partner. And she looked at me horrified, like, you what? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to start my own practice. And she's always been very supportive, but she definitely had a look of fear on her face, but it worked out very, very well. So
yes, very well.
No regrets.
Good for you.
Yeah,
no regrets.
Yeah, no regrets.
So, you look great. You're in great shape. What do you do you have daily rituals?
It's funny because you and I had been chatting earlier in the day. I think between the two of us, we probably lost a combined 60 or 70
Yeah.
pounds over the last
Yeah.
last year or so. I do work out. I go to the gym 3-4 days a week. I'll lift. I'll do some cardio. I ride a bike. My wife and I ski a lot. So I try to stay active.
That's right. I see you on social media.
Yeah, we ski a lot. We ski a lot. We hike a lot. And my motivation now, at this stage of my life, where I'm turning 58 next week, is health. I have a family history of some pretty nasty illnesses, diabetes, and heart disease run in my family. So, and my mother everyone in my family had diabetes. So it's really in my head that I don't want to go down that path.
No kidding, right?
Yeah, I don't want to go down that path. So I'm doing everything I can. I eat really clean. And this is all recent. This isn't like, I've been eating, I used to eat and drink in an unhealthy manner for many years. But I would say the last year, I really cleaned up my diet.
Good for you.
And I've honed my exercise routine. And I've gotten a lot thinner. I was 30 plus pounds heavier a year ago. So.
But you look fantastic.
I feel good, man. So do you.
Great job.
So do you, yeah. Yeah. I just want to, I'd like to live longer, but I'd like whatever it is that I am going to live to be
enjoyable.
Yeah, I want to be healthy. I want to be able to go for walks with my wife when I'm 70, or go for a bike ride.
Exactly.
This past ski season, I skied with people. I met people on the chairlift, 75, 80 years old, and they're skiing. I'm like, I want to do that.
You want to do what you enjoy doing.
I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to get up in the morning as an elderly person and do something that I enjoy doing.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my motivation. Now, you can look good on the beach while you're doing it. I'm all for it.
Right.
It's just,
right.
We'll try.
Exactly. So how about any kind of podcasts that you stay in tune with besides the world of marketing, of course?
Yeah, the world of marketing, absolutely. I follow a few podcasts, and getting back to our discussion about health and fitness, a lot of it centers around nutrition and exercise. There's two of them that I've been following closely. One is by Peter Attia, Attia. Mm-hmm. It's called The Drive. And he is a Stanford-educated doctor who writes and speaks on the science behind longevity. He does a lot of studies talks a lot about studies that involve what we can do to better our chances of living a longer lifespan and a healthier lifespan. In all topics that touch upon that subject, he'll discuss. He has people on his shows who are, specialists in particular areas. For example, if cholesterol is a problem, he wants to talk about cholesterol. He had a doctor on, Dr. Dayspring, who's a lipidologist. And it can get into the weeds. I confess I'm a bit of a nerd for the medical science involved, so I don't mind getting into it. I love all that. Yeah. And there's another person, his last name is Huberman. I'm blanking on his first name, but he is also a doctor, and he also talks about similar topics. On the business front, I try to think of who I've listened to. Ben Glass.
Yeah.
I listen to Ben Glass of Great Legal Marketing.
Do you listen to the Lawyerist podcast?
Yes, I have. Yeah. Not religiously, not as much. There's only so much time. And I don't know if y'all like this, but if there's a particular interest that you really become passionate about, 85% of your time is spent either reading or listening to subjects related to that. So I've been doing more of that. So that's really my podcast.
Any good books you could recommend to us?
Yes. In fact, I'm going to pull it out.
Yeah, pull some out if you got them.
I do have it because I bought it from Ben.
Right, because you're up here for the Great Legal Marketing, Heroes and Icons, Mastermind.
I put it in my other briefcase. I'll tell you right now, it's called Outlive. And it's by Peter Attia, and I just finished reading it.
Outlive?
Outlive.
Outlive by Peter Attia.
Outlive, yep, by Peter Attia and Bill Gifford. It's a great book, and just see here. It's The Science and Art of Longevity.
Very good.
Fantastic book. And the reason I have it with me is because I bought it from my good friend Ben Glass. He's always recommending books to us.
Right.
And so I brought him a copy.
Very good.
Yep.
So let me ask you this question I always like to ask. Any big mistakes that you've made that you'd like to warn others to not make?
I've made some huge mistakes. Some I'm more comfortable speaking about than others.
Sure.
But on the business front, yeah, I think when I first started my law practice, or more particularly when I first paid attention to marketing, I made the mistake initially of thinking that if I was a great lawyer, that I didn't need to worry about marketing. I had been sold on the concept that just being really good as a trial lawyer, you didn't need to worry about marketing or advertising or any of that. And I bought that hook, line, and sinker for many years. And it was a huge mistake because it's not true. It's the best cases go to the people who market the best. That's an unfortunate fact.
Well, you got to market your brand.
Right. I didn't realize that. I just thought that I'm at that age group. I think younger lawyers don't fall into that trap as much. They realize that they need to market themselves and their brand. I didn't, and that was a giant mistake. So once I started realizing that marketing would play an important role in my future growth, I then made another mistake, is that I followed what, people refer to as the shiny objects. I would get involved, for example, you get a website. I've been with Foster Web for now several years, and people start talking to you about, well, you need to do more of this type of SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, and you start going down rabbit holes when in fact everything that you're doing is working well. You find yourself trying to pay more attention to something that's the newest and latest when in fact something might not be broken. So I think the advice I would give anybody is that if what you're doing is working, granted, yes, you want to optimize it. You want to make sure it's working as well as possible, but resist the temptation to just jump from the next greatest thing,
right,
or to the next greatest
right.
thing. And I fell victim of that. And I think maybe that could still happen to me, but I'm much more aware of it. I think I take a more calm approach to it. What I'm doing working? And if it is, okay, can we make it a little better before I just jump ship? Whereas I see a lot of other lawyers making real dramatic moves from whether it be vendor to vendor to vendor to vendor. And I think that's a mistake. Now, I'm not telling you not to leave a vendor that's not performing.
Or working with you the way
Correct.
that you want to communicate.
But the shiny objects you need to be careful of, and they're alluring, and they call them shiny objects for a reason.
Right.
They're attractive.
So that's mistakes. What about big wins?
Community-based marketing is more powerful than any SEO you
Community-based marketing, folks. Exactly.
It's huge.
So explain that a little bit. Elaborate on that.
Sure. In my practice, we market. We have a very large Spanish-speaking client base, which is growing at a rapid rate.
Yeah.
Because the physical location of my business, my law firm, is in an area that's densely populated with Latinos, first-generation Latinos. So we market on Spanish TV.
You're just telling me incredible success this month already.
Yeah, we market on Spanish TV. We market on Spanish radio. We do pay-per-click on Google in the Spanish community. But by far, our best, use of time, money, and resources is
In the community.
into the community. We compete against very large law firms.
And like how? Like how do you meet?
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
In Chelsea, there's a group called the Chelsea Collaborative. It's a nonprofit organization that its sole focus is to help the lives of recent immigrants into the city. They need so much. They need education. They need food. I mean, there's a lot of food insecurity. They need food. They need housing assistance. They need everything. And this organization is there to lobby for them, be a resource, be awarded grants by the state and federal government to provide resources to help the community during the COVID crisis. They've done so much for the community. So our partnership with them is at a stage that is really paying dividends. We do it because it's the right thing to do. I'll give you an example. I'm big on eating well and eating healthy. And it upsets me that people believe that only because I may be in a socioeconomic level now at this stage of my life where I can afford good produce, and good foods and good fruits and good vegetables, and I can eat differently than somebody who is struggling financially. So what you see in our community is a very high level of obesity, diabetes, and a lot of health issues because people aren't eating well. And the reason they're not eating well is because they're trying to feed a family of 4. So they're buying things that are less expensive.
Right.
And processed foods can feed more people at a smaller dollar amount. I think that's, excuse my language, bullshit. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
So it makes me sad that people believe that. So what we're doing is Chelsea Collaborative is building a new facility, and in it is going to be a test kitchen in a commercial grade kitchen where they're going to have classes and they're going to try to teach better nutrition to the community. So we're going to get heavily involved in that. And I'm hoping to have like the Spada Law Group Healthy Kitchen, where we'll bring in chefs, we'll bring in restaurant owners. If there's an expense involved, we'll pay that. We'll take care of those costs. We'll buy the food. So the people in the community can start learning that, hey, I can feed a family for 5 in a very healthy manner for the same price I could the way I used to do it that might not be the best. Now, and it's not just people from a certain socioeconomic level that are eating that way. People are eating poorly in the United States overall.
Totally.
Processed foods, I don't want to get onto a nutrition lecture, but processed foods are slowly killing our country.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of something that's close to my heart. So for Easter, we worked with the Chelsea Collaborative. We gave away healthy foods to the community. People would come. We had a photographer and videographer. We had there were games for the kids and Easter egg hunts and all that. So we're doing a lot of that. And getting back to the marketing, yes, we do it because it's the right thing to do, but it pays huge dividends. We are the go-to firm in the community. People call us for things that we don't even do. We're becoming sort of the first call for people that are new to the country. Call Spada Law Group. They're there for you, whether they can help you with, we do personal injury work. People call us for immigration work, divorces, real estate matters, bankruptcy, criminal matters, none of which we handle. But we have partners who do all of those. So
that you can refer people to.
And the reason why it's so important, Tom, is we're competing against giants like Morgan & Morgan.
Right.
They're in our community, they're advertising. And you know something? Maybe they're doing a great job on their cases, but they are not in the community. They're not the ones providing community outreach. I just don't think it's something that's in their business model.
No, they're not. They're flying around in their jets.
Right. So if I want to compete...
Eating processed foods.
You're right. Yeah, eating processed foods. If I want to compete with Morgan & Morgan, I can't compete dollar for dollar on TV ads. But I
Right.
can be out in the community helping with Thanksgiving giveaways, Easter giveaways. We're out in the motorcycle community helping bikers and cyclists. And, so I would tell anybody.
You're the real deal.
Well, I would tell anybody that's
It's the real deal.
starting a practice, get into the community, and you'll feel good about it. You'll feel good about being successful at work because you're doing something that's worthwhile, and the phone will ring. People recognize when you're authentic, when you're really doing it for the right reasons, and the business side will
Benefit greatly.
and you'll realize that it's your best marketing lever to pull.
And personally, you'll benefit.
It feels great.
Yeah, it feels great.
It feels great.
Yeah.
Not only that, I've been in Chelsea since 1998. I've been able to educate my children. I've been able to buy a home. I mean, the community has been good to me with respect to the business that we've been in. I feel like it's my duty to do something for that community. They've made my life great, so I want to be able to give back. Now, early in my career, I'm not in a position to do that. Like I said, I'm paying tuitions. I'm doing all the things that everybody else is doing. So I don't have a lot of extra money to put back into a community. But I'm at a different stage in my life now. Times are better. Now's the time to give back.
Yeah.
And that's what I plan to do.
Well, you're a good man, Len Spada.
I try.
I'm very happy to know you, very happy to have you as a client. So happy that you have come to be on the podcast and be in the new studio. Brother.
I'm honored.
Fantastic.
Thank you for asking.
And all this talk of food has gotten me very hungry.
Well, I think we're going to go out for
We're gonna
something
go to
healthy,
lunch.
correct?
We're going to go to a healthy place.
Thank you for asking.
So thank you, brother.
Can I?